It's really a rejection job. And the more rejections you get, the more sales you'll make. This was the totality of my sales training. So I used to get up earlier and earlier each day so I could knock on more doors so I could be rejected more often. And I began starting at 6, 7, or 8 o'clock in the morning when people came to work, and I would knock on doors all day. And in the evenings, I would go out and knock on doors of homes and apartments. I would sometimes work 12 to 14 hours a day. I worked 30 days before I made my first sale. This is not a good way to live, I can tell you that. I was sleeping on the floor of a friend's apartment. I had one change of clothes. I would have to wash out my shirt in the sink at night. I had one tie which came off and clicked back on, and one pair of shoes which were too big for me. So when I walked, it was like walking with swim fins. Ka-plop, ka-plop, ka-flop, ka-flop. And I had to lean forward so my shoes didn't fall off. If I ran, my shoes would fall off. So this was my start. And after about 6 months of knocking on doors and earning just enough to stay alive, I noticed that there was one man in my company who was earning 10 times as much as anyone else. And he wasn't even working very hard. He would start work at 9 or 9:30. He would go out, or a client would come into the office, or he would go out and visit a client. He would have lunch with another prospective customer. He would make sales in the afternoon, and he would quit at 4:30 or 5. And he went to beautiful restaurants, and he had nice vacations. He had a beautiful apartment, and he had a pocket full of money, and he had no financial problems, and he was selling the same product that I was selling out of the same office at the same price to the same people under the same conditions. So I did something, about 6 months later, I did something that changed my life. I still recall this changed my life. In your lifetime, by the way, you have experiences. And it's usually an idea or a concept. Something happens and your life goes in a different direction. And this was the transforming moment for me. I took a deep breath and I went and I asked him, what are you doing differently from me? Why are you making so many sales? And he said, well, show me your sales presentation and I'll critique it for you. I said, my what? He said, your sales presentation. I said, you show me yours and I'll show you mine. Because I didn't have a sales presentation. I was doing what I call the blah, blah sell. I would find a prospect and go blah, 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 until they would start looking at their watch and looking away. And so they'd say, thank you very much for coming in. Let me think about it. Call me back next year, maybe, or leave me some information. And I would go from place to place and get the same response. He said, no, no, no.